Hello guys. You're welcome to Farmhouse. This is my garden where I plant different types of veggies, edible ones at that. Here, as you can see, is the full extent of my farm where I have different things we'll be talking about today. I have water leaf, I plant water leaf, I plant scent leaf, I have pawpaw, I have the native African pear, I have plantains and a lot more other crops. And today we are going to be talking about them. Planting stuff is really my passion because I've been planting stuff right from when I was a kid. We would plant in very small areas. So when I had this piece of land, I decided that I was going to plant a lot more of other stuff. And the land being very fruitful, I've been able to have them grow without any form of hassle. So, to begin, we will be talking about water leaf, right? So I know you probably heard about water leaf, but there are a few things you may not have heard about water leaf, and that's what we'll be treating, and the benefits to be very precise. So, what is water leaf? Water leaf is a plant. As you can see, it's a very edible plant. It has leaves, it has flowers, it has stems. And now water leaf can be cultivated in Nigeria, almost all parts of Nigeria basically. But the thing about water leaf is that it needs sufficient amount of water for it to grow effectively, right? So if you try planting water leaf in areas where there is mostly dry season, extended dry seasons, like in the north, you have issues growing this. So if you notice, it's only part of the southern and eastern parts of Nigeria. That's where we have water leaf growing very well, right? So now, as you can see, this is the typical length of a water leaf bed. It could be bigger and it could be very well much smaller than this. Now down to the cultivation of water leaf. I would have to show you guys with an illustration how water leaf is planted. So here in my hand you can see this is what it looks like. This is what water leaf looks like. Basically, we have the flowers, the leaves rather. Then we have the flowers. This is not actually mature. I need to do this, and I have to be careful so I don't step on them. So I think this is like a better example, right? So these are the leaves. You see them, they have this jello like kind of orientation, very flexible. And then we have the flower, and then we have the stem. The stem is actually very fragile. It's something you can flex and unflex. It doesn't quite snap that easily, although it might if you apply right amounts of pressure to it. So now for the cultivation of this, you will need this. Now, some people plant it using the seeds, right? But that's not really how I plant mine. I plant mine using the stems, as you can see. So if I were to plant, I would pull out the leaves, at least a huge chunk of it, and then I would put the stem right here into the soil. But first, that is like the third step when you're planting. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you have land. That's the very first step. You have good fertile land. You don't use land that is too sandy and doesn't have any nutritional components. You can tell the orientation, how fertile soil is from how it looks basically. So you cannot plant this on sand that is just white. You have to make sure you have fertile soil. So now when you have fertile soil, there is every possibility that it will have weeds on it. It will have other plants that clearly not water leaf. So the next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you weed it to the roots. You don't just go weeding by just hand picking the weeds. You have to use a hoe or a machete to cut through to the roots to make sure you totally uproot all the roots. When you are done doing that, you have to till it. Now tilling is a process where you use your hoe or your machete, even depending on the extent of the land, and you turn the soil inside out, right? When you turn the soil inside out, you let it sit for a while. You don't just after turning you start planting. No, you let it sit for a while. And I would always recommend you use some form of manure. We have both the organic and inorganic manure, depending on how fast you want your water leaf to grow. Because typically it takes water leaf about 2 weeks to fully mature from the inception of planting. So if I should plant it today, in about 14 days time it should be mature, should like be well grown, right? So now after you have tilled and all of that, you have to get a very high volume of this plant, a very high volume of these stems in a bag, or however, if you're getting it from someone else's farm, if you're buying it, you need to get it. And you already have your prepared bed, which you may have manured or not. So you just get that, and then planting time is actually very crucial, right? Because you don't want to plant when it's sunny, right? You don't want to plant when the humidity is very, very high. You want to plant in the evenings or very early in the mornings. So that way, when you plant around these times, you get the best out of your crops, right? So when it's morning or when it's in the evening, you get your plant, and then you get where did I place that? Okay, you could just use this. This is what the stems look like. This is what you plant. This is what you plant. You don't plant the leaves, you plant this. As you can see, it's tough, it's rigid, it's greenish, and it's flexible, like I said at the beginning of the video. This is what you plant, and you could plant it at any length. It could be longer than this, it could be shorter than this. Let me look for one that appears okay. It could be this long and it could be this short, right? So it depends on your preferences, really. So you could decide that you're going to plant a stem that is this long or a stem that is this short. Now on your piece of prepared land, you just put it, you have to make sure that they are not too close together, because if they are too close together, they will not have enough space to grow effectively. So you need to put like a few inches, like 1 or 2 inches away from each stem when you're planting it, right? So after you set this and you have a reasonable distance between them, you go on to fill the entire extent of your bed with this. So if you are fast, this should take you about a day. Yes, it should take you about a day, and the entire bed will be filled with this. Now, after you have planted all what you have planted and everything is looking good, you have to make sure that you watered it especially when you're not in the rainy season, right? You have to make sure that it is well watered, because like the name implies, water leaf. If there is any inadequate water supply to it, it won't grow right. So you have to make sure that it has water. Even if it's rainy season, you have to water it in the mornings and you have to water it in the evenings, at least 2 times daily. And you need to make sure that the soil is well soaked with water, like it is fully soaked with water. After doing that, you discover that it will begin to sprout. It will begin to sprout in a few days. In about 4 to 5 days, you should see something that looks like this. You see, this is actually very tiny. It's just something that has begun sprouting. Now the next thing is, after it starts growing, other things are going to grow with it as well. It's not just going to be this, because of course, yes, although you weed that, there are other weeds in between, and weeds growing in your water leaf will stop them from growing properly. So you want to make sure that all forms of weeds, you have to look in between them as they are growing. Starting that early week, you have to make sure that weeds are not there. You need to make sure that they are not there. They can ruin your efforts completely. So for example, I think I have some weeds here. You see, this is even a very, very big weed. I just found this. So you don't want things like this in your water leaf farm. So imagine you have water leaf around here and you have this growing. So this is like battling with the whole, it's battling with the whole water supply, the nutrient supply to your water leaf. So you do not want this. You have to take it out. You have to take it out completely from this. So down to how you remove the weed. How you remove the weed is important. Like you can say, remove this from the roots. You do not remove a weed by simply breaking off the leaves or the stems. You have to make sure you remove it from the roots. Very important. So you use your hands, or you use your hands preferably, or you use a hoe, a very small hoe, to make sure you pull it from the roots, to make sure that it is out completely. Now, let's go to the uses and importance of water leaf. Why do we even plant this? Why do we cultivate this? Why did I plant this in the farmhouse, right? So why I planted this because it has very wide uses. Water leaf can be used for things that you don't even know water leaf can be used for. Apart from the very obvious uses, which is eating, most definitely, it's also a source of income, right? People sell this and they make money from it. People use this to cure different. If you're from Nigeria, there is no how you've not heard about how people use water leaf juice to purge their children. It's actually a very, very unconventional medicinal method. So what they do is basically they uproot this and then they squeeze out, they juice it out. So you have them either using their hands. I'll show you a very typical example. So they have their hands, they push it like this, and then it becomes all juicy. And if you have a high quantity of this and you do this, you have the extracted juice from it. So they put that in what is called an enema, and they use it to purge their children. So it has very deep gastrointestinal cleansing properties. So if you have constipation, if you even have ulcer, this juice from this is very, very important, right? So also in cooking, it's used to cook variety of meals. You could use it to cook your afang, which we'll be talking about shortly, the afang leaf. You can use it to cook your vegetable, which is like the pumpkin leaves. You can use it to cook your melon, which is like another plant entirely. So it has very vast uses, and as a plant it has different nutritional values, like, right, it has proteins, it has lipids, it has high level of antioxidants you would not believe. So it fights cancers, it fights different forms of heart diseases and the rest. So it is highly, highly important and needed, right? So now let's go to the business perspective. We talked about the health. It is obviously very, very, very important for health and nutrition. So if you cultivate this, you could have this whole entire extent of land filled with just water leaf, and it will shock you to know that people make good money from cultivating water leaf. Like if I had up to, let's say, 50 beds of this, and it takes about 2 weeks to mature, and I tend it properly, make sure that all the weeds are off, make sure that everything is in sync, you discover that I can cultivate every 2 weeks. And if I have up to 20 beds, 50 beds, that is good money coming in. Most of this water leaf can even be sent to areas, like I told you at the beginning of this video, there are places where you can't quite cultivate water leaf, right, because they do not have high amounts of rainfall. So in areas like that, in northern states like Plateau, Kano, Kaduna, Sokoto, there is high demand for this. So if you have a way you can, as a farmer, you can convey your water leaf and you can send it there, that is you making money every 2 weeks. So that is basically all there is. There are different species of this actually. This is that we have the wild ones and other forms of it. The botanical name is Thallium triangulae, which you probably forget, but that's like the botanical name for this particular plant. So we can see the wholesomeness, we can see the goodness of water leaf. Water leaf is very essential. So if you have a home, if you have a little space in your yard, even if you don't have a little space, we've had people using condemned bathtubs. They fill it with sand and then they plant water leaf, because you never know when you will need to use water leaf, maybe for a health emergency or just to cook that soup that you want to eat. And judging from the fact that the soups that we use water leaf to cook are cooked in different countries of the world, not just Nigeria, this is an essential commodity that you need to make sure you have at all times. So this is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful water leaf. Also, the flowers are not mostly edible, so most times if you're cooking it, you need to make sure that you take off the flowers. Although there's been no reported case of poisoning or anything like that, so I'll just show you an example of what the flower looks like. So this is what the flower looks like. You can see it's always found in the central part of the plant. As you can see, it has this pinkish coloration. I just need to find another, just to be sure that you guys can see clearly. Okay, this is the full bloomed one. You can see it's pinkish. It's always found centralized on the plant, so it's very, very, very easy to remove. So you need to make sure that this is off before you eat it, before you use it for whatever you're using it for. Most people in the market, before they sell this, they have to make sure that this is out, right? So you do not eat it, because this is not for eating purposes, of course. Some people plant the seeds from this. They use this as a means of planting, but like I said at the beginning of the video, that is not how we plant in this side of Nigeria. So guys, that's it for water leaf. I do hope you've gotten value, and I hope that you're going to plant water leaf today in your area, wherever you stay. So guys, before I go over to talking about other plants I have, I want you guys to take a very close look at what my water leaf garden looks like. So you see how the stems look, you see how it's oriented, you can see the obvious spaces in between, and you can see the full extent of the garden. You can also see the weeds because I haven't had time to pull them out, so you can also see what the weeds look like. You can be able to tell the weeds from the actual plant. So this is the full extent of the farm. A typical sized water leaf garden is what you have right here. Hello guys, welcome back. Still in this video I will be talking about scent leaf. I did mention I plant different forms of edible crops, and we just spoke about water leaf extensively. So you can see my water leaf on my left hand side, and you can see scent leaf on my right hand side. You can actually plant your water leaf and your scent leaf side by side. You don't need 10 acres of land, right? So you can see this is a very small space. So you can decide to plant this here, and you can decide to plant your scent leaf on the other side. So as you can see, this is not quite a very big bed, but it's a sizable bed for scent leaf. Now scent leaf, most people know it as African basil leaves. So they are very nutritious, and as the name implies, they have a very airflow restricting scent, right? They can add flavor, they have high amount of flavor that they add to meals, that they add to baked stuff, that they add to literally anything you put them in. They have this rich umami taste, so researchers say. So basically we're talking about the cultivation, how you can have this, how you can plant this in your home, and we'll also be talking about the health benefits, ranging from eye health to health, heart health, to a couple of other very important things that you can use scent leaf for. So now, as you can see, they have very unlike the water leaf, these have a very long stem, and I think I'm just going to cut one off so you can see clearly. Okay, so this is it. Although some looks a little bent here, but you can see that it's way longer than the water leaf, right? So now this is grown in different parts of the world, not just Africa, not just Nigeria, not just Calabar where I am. It's grown in other parts of the world, in South America, in the Caribbean. You can find this leaf growing there, right? So like I said, it's very similar to the water leaf. Now this leaf, for you to cultivate it, you need a piece of land, clearly, and in addition to having a piece of land, you have to make sure that it is well prepared. You have tilted it and you have applied manure. Now for growing this and even growing water leaf, you need very good manure, and we always recommend, as a farmer that I am, I always recommend that you use organic manure. That is, you don't use inorganic. Inorganic is the one that comes in bags, the nitrogen, the NPK fertilizers and all of that. So you could use very more organic fertilizers, like you could use chicken dung, you could use horse dung, like cow dung, to actually grow this. And it is good that you let it rest on the tilled soil for a while before you plant this. So now, after you have done that, you need to get the stem. Although for this, quite a number of people use the seeds, which is not really apparent right now, because it's when it has grown to full length, that's when you can get the seeds from it. So I think I will show you what the seed looks like. Just like the flower in the water leaf, the seed is found centrally, right? So this is what it looks like. It's very easy to follow. If you let the seeds long enough, they turn out to be the plant itself. So you can decide to use that, or you use the stem method. Now this is not like water leaf. It takes a significantly higher amount of duration of time for it to grow. So it doesn't take 2 weeks, it takes about 4 weeks, 4 to 8 weeks to mature. And you need to be really patient when you're growing this. It's not as fast as the water leaf. So you need to make sure that there are no weeds. Weeds are typically bad news. This, when you're growing them, they may look like they are not growing initially, right? So you need to be very consistent. In short, when I first planted this, I was watering it consistently for about 2 weeks, and it was looking as if nothing was sprouting. Everything literally died off completely, and I was wondering, is it going to grow? And then one week like that, I discovered that they were sprouting slowly and slowly, and before you knew it, it was full blown within a couple of days. And then we have this. So you need to be really patient when you are planting the scent leaf. Now, down to uses, let's talk about the edible uses, where you can use this. You can use this to cook native delicacies. Here in Cross River, Nigeria, is the ekpang. Ekpang is prepared using water yam, which is like another variant of yam, right? But that one has a more stretchy consistency when graded as compared to yam. So you use that, and then you use this leaf. This is like the signature leaf for that delicacy. So you use this. Also, when you're making plantain porridge, this is your go-to leaf. People use it for different things. You can use it to spice anything. You can use it to make noodles. You can use it to make spaghetti. You can use it to make whatever you are making at any point in time. You can mix it with your pumpkin vegetable. You can even mix it with your water leaf vegetable, depending on your preferences, really. So this goes both literally in all edible directions, right? So you can use this leaf for all of that. So I'll be talking about the health benefits, which is actually the core of this vegetable you see here, because most people grow this not because they want to add it in their food strictly, but because they want to extract the juice and use it for different forms of health conditions, ranging from eye problems to respiratory problems, just name it, different kind of. And we'll be talking about each of these health conditions, the consequence of this, and the role it plays shortly. Okay, so I'll be talking about the health benefits of scent leaf. Like I said earlier, it has numerous health benefits, but for the purpose of this video in the farmhouse, I'll be talking about just a few. So the very first thing you want to know about scent leaf is that they are very good for the eyes. Now, this scent leaf has a very high amount of vitamin A. And if you did your elementary biology or sciences very well, you know that vitamin A is very crucial for eye health, right? So if you have someone battling cataracts, battling blood vision, battling astigmatism, any form of eye disease or disorder, this is very, very good. Very, very good. There are people that have early onset of cataracts. All they just have to do is get a stem or two of it, squeeze it out, juice it, and drink it consistently. They could take it with either garlic, ginger, or any other related herb that could help curb the eye defect that they are having. Just know that this is unorthodox, right? This is herbal, but yes, it does work. This plant is very powerful, has very high amount of vitamin A. So another thing you can use this plant, health benefits oriented, is heart problems. So if you have painful heart contraction, you discover that your heart is beating abnormally, people always suggest this. I have recommended this to my neighbors time without numbers, and it works. People that complain about chest pain and all of that. So the thing is that this plant has very high amounts of calcium and magnesium ions, right? And if you have any knowledge about heart health, you will know that magnesium and calcium are very, very important for muscle contraction, cardiac muscle contraction. So if you should take this, still the juice, you could also eat it in your diet. The thing is that you don't necessarily need to juice this up and take it exclusively, except you want to. So including this in your diet can help improve your heart health, right? So if you know someone that needs this, cultivating and growing this, and then recommending that they take it as often as they want. It is nice tasting, it is very easy to cultivate, it doesn't take a very long time to grow like plantains or even the yams. It takes significant lower amount of time to grow, so you could always recommend this to them. Also, for people that have high blood sugar level, diabetes, this is very important. It brings down blood glucose levels at a very high rate. You have no idea basically. So you could use this if you have someone that is diabetic. Great part of diet, it works wonders within the shortest possible time, right? So for diabetics, either type 1 or type 2 or anywhere in between, taking this is a sure way to reduce the blood sugar level in these individuals. Also, this can be used as an insect repellent. Yes, meaning that if you have this around your vicinity, maybe for decoration in front of your house, you are indirectly repelling insects, from mosquitoes to flies to cockroaches to house, just name it. It has very insane insect repellent properties. So it's something that you definitely want to plant in your house if you always have outbreak of insect infestations in your house. Also, when you have blocked nostrils at night, a glass of this before bed, and when you wake up, if you know you're prone to having blocked nostrils, this works wonders. So as you can see, this plant is very, very well versed in helping you curb all forms of ailments. It's great testing, it's easy to cultivate. Scent leaf is everything, to be honest. It is everything. Putting this in your pepper soup it hits on another level, I must tell you guys. So this is all there is. Cultivation is easy, like I mentioned at the start of the video. You can always plant the stems or you can plant the seeds. The seeds, I showed you guys what the seeds look like, but I think I'm going to just cut off another one if I can find a seed. The thing is, when it reaches maturity stage, you will find the seeds a little more easily, not when it's still okay. I guess you could just call the seeds flowers, right? So this is it. So this is what it looks like. You want to make sure it's a bit dry. You don't plant it as it's fresh. It's like they are flowers, right? So they have all that is needed for them to reproduce and grow. This is what the seed looks like. You want to make sure that it's dry. It's really, really dry. And then when it's dry, it falls off easily. As you can see now, I'm straining to have it removed, but when it's dry, it falls off easily, and you could just spread it on your prepared bed and it's going to grow without hassle. And in the next 4 to 8 weeks, you should have your scent leaf growing even bigger than mine and all of that, and then you'll be happy that you have this very important plant. Thank you guys. Welcome guys, still in the farmhouse, and on this video I would like to talk about plantains next. Remember, we talked about water leaf, we talked about scent leaf, their similarities, differences, benefits, and all you can think of about those crops. Now we'll be talking about plantains. Now if you've not seen what a plantain tree looks like, these are weeds, so I'm not stepping on any of my crops, right? So if you don't know what a plantain tree looks like, this is what it looks like. And over the entire extent of my farm, that way and this way, you can see I have very many plantain trees, from baby plantain trees to the very big ones that have already started sprouting up plantain plants up there. You can see I have all that, and I think I have about 150 to 200, if not more, plantain trees in my farm. So today we're talking about the cultivation of this very, very wonderful plant and the benefits. Of course, today we are all about benefits, and benefits. So now, plantains are that are edible, very very edible, and it will be very surprising for you to know that we even have species of these plants that are blue colored, like blue colored plantains, right? The normal color is green, but in other places like in South America, in America, in Asia, we have other variants of these edible plants that have different colors, have different sizes, come in different shapes. Some are longer, some are shorter, some are wider, and some are slimmer than others. So now, how is this planted? In order to plant this, you need what we call a sucker. So a sucker is like what you would call a baby plantain. It's very small. They're always very very little. If I had a sample here, I would have shown you guys, but I think in the next video I would. So they're always very very little. They are like babies. Now when you're getting a sucker, people actually do that as a business. They sell plantain suckers. You want to be sure that the suckers you are buying are not contaminated, that they don't have a disease, because if you should imagine buying 500 suckers only to discover that they have a strain of a disease. You are just wasting your land, because that plant will not give you results. So you need to make sure that it's a pure breed. It doesn't come with diseases that you need to start battling for, right? So once you've gotten that, you need land, which is like very obvious thing. You need good cultivational land that you can actually plant on, fertile land. You need to have good organic or inorganic fertilizers, because plantains require a lot of that. So you could decide that you don't want to get the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium fertilizers. You could say, okay, I want to use organic, I want to use chicken dung, I want to use organic food leftovers to cultivate my plantain. But while you're doing that, it's very important, it's very expedient that you know that if you're doing a very large scale production like what I have here, although it's not really, we have plantations of this is actually small scale, but if you're doing something that has a larger scale, you might want to go inorganic, because getting organic manure for a large scale cultivation of this crop might take a while. So when you get your sucker, you want to, of course, plant it. You want to make sure that the depth of the soil is moderate, not too deep and not too shallow, right? And then you put in your sucker to the soil. So that will, over a period of time, it takes plantains about 1 year to actively reach maturity, right? So this is like a longer period of time. So these very small tendrils that you can see here might just be 2 months old. You can see what it looks like. Be 2 months old. It's still growing, still in the process of growing, right? So you need to be very patient when you're planting plantains. And at the very early stages, while planting this very wonderful crop, you need to make sure that there are no weeds. I'm sure now, looking around here, you've noticed that there are no weeds around this area. This place is so weed free. It's so weed free, right? This doesn't happen at the outset. If you're just planting plantains for the very first time, you notice that there'll be a lot of weeds. What happens is that as they approach their 5th, 6th month and they start having these canopies give shelter to the surrounding environment, so weeds cannot effectively grow. Weeds need sunlight. The reason why the scent leaf, the water leaf have that high amount of weeds even when they are mature is because their leaves do not have canopies like the plantain leaves do. So these canopies make the area around to be covered, and if it's covered, weeds will not have enough sunlight to grow effectively, right? So that's the thing with the plantain leaves, the plantain plant rather. So when you planted them and then they start growing and start sprouting, you might need to support them in the initial stage. Some might need support. As you can see, they are not that strong. They are not that strong, and especially when they are so little, they are not so you might need to support them in a way. You might need to get, for the very very feeble ones like this one now, so feeble, I might get something to support it here so that it doesn't, when there is heavy rain, because most times when it rains heavily, these plants may just fall and break because they are that not so resilient, right? So that is the thing about plantains. Also, they need water. They need water to grow, because most times these plants they need so much water. That is why they are planted during the rainy season, cultivated mostly during the rainy season, and harvested during the dry seasons, right? So during the rainy season, it's very hard for you to see plantains, but in the dry season, they are everywhere. Towards October, November, December, people plant early part of the year towards the rainy season, and then they harvest it, they cultivate it towards the ending part of the year, towards the dry season. So that is it for this. So now the plantain plant itself has very similar structure. In fact, the plantain and the banana belong to the same family, right? They belong to the same family in the hierarchy. They belong to the same family, and these plants, they have a very very similar look. It's very hard to tell apart a banana tree from a plantain. So the bananas and the plantains, they look so much more alike, but the difference is actually in the fruits, what we eat, right? Plantains they are stronger, they cling more to the actual soft part of the plant, right? They are harder to peel off, and they are bigger, significantly bigger than most bananas. So I just noticed that over here I have a new plant of plantain. So I want you guys to come and see what it looks like. Just planted. I think it's less than a month or so. I want you guys to come see what it looks like. You can see this is another plant. This is the cocoyam. And this is after more. So let's start with the baby one. So you can see right here. This looks very small. This is actually a plantain sucker that is beginning to sprout. I think this is about a month. So you can see how small and fragile it looks. So if there is a rainstorm or something, you could easily affect this. I think I've even seen another one that is way smaller, guys. So you see this, so small. You might think it's even going to not survive, but it would actually survive. It will actually survive. So you've seen how small they can be. They take about a year, 11 to 12 months to fully mature, right? To fully mature. You can see this one has already started sprouting. You can see how much. Now this thing could grow to the point that if the fruit matures to where it's supposed to have matured to, it will bring down the weight will pull down the main trunk of the plant, and it will bend all the way till it almost touches the ground, right? So it can be that crazy when it wants to mature. Really, it can be that crazy. And as you can see, there are very minimal weeds here. Very, very minimal weeds. Because of the canopy that the plants provide, weeds cannot actually thrive. Now, this fruit, the plantain fruit, is very rich, very very rich. It has very good health benefits. It's edible. It contains a significantly high amount of iron, right? So if you're battling anemia of any sort, you don't have blood, right? Plantain is good. So that's why it's recommended for menstruating girls and mothers. Pregnant women need to have high amount of plantain, specifically the unripe one that has higher levels of iron than the ripened one. So this, they could make it with beans, they could make it as a porridge with scent leaf. I did mention plantain and scent leaf, so the unripe one, the scent leaf, works great. And also this is a form of swallow. Swallow is a thing. In case you're not Nigerian, not to know what swallow is like a part of food that you just swallow. You don't exactly chew it, right? So we have gari in that category. We have starch, we have fufu, we have pounded yam, we have plantain flour. So you could use plantain to make a swallow form, right? So all you just have to do is that you peel it. When you peel it, you cut it, you dry it, you grind. When it's really dry, then you now grind it into a powdered form, a very smooth powder form, and then you can turn it. There is a process for that. You turn it and then you make it into a swallow. It's very good for people that are diabetic, people that have blood sugar, because this contains little to no amount of glucose, right? So it's a great swallow choice for diabetic people. For kids that have a sweet tooth, when it is ripened, fried plantain and eggs is what every kid loves. So you could also make it into chips while it is still unripe and make the best out of this wonderful plantain. So it also has some amount of carbohydrate, although a very insignificant amount of carbohydrate. It is high in antioxidants, and the benefits are actually quite numerous. So for plantain, it has very good economical uses, and people are big on selling this, right? So people could actually get acres of land and they plant only plantain, guys. Yes, you heard me right, only plantain. I'm talking about acres of land. Since it takes approximately a year to grow and demand for it fluctuates, it's always there. Like most times during my own birthday, it's not always plantain season, right? So just imagine other areas where it's not grown. So people capitalize on the fact that people love plantains and it's in high demand, and then they cultivate this primarily. They sell. People cultivate this in other parts of Cross River, Ikom, Ogoja, Obudu, Boki. They have plantain plantations, right? So they cultivate these plants and then they send them all the way to the west, to the north and eastern parts of the country, and then they make good money from it. You can see trailer trucks carrying just plantain. So it's very lucrative business. If you can learn how to plant, be patient with your plants, get land, it is something you can make good amount of money from, for yourself, for your family and for your kids. So guys, that is it. That is actually it for plantain. Very wonderful plantain plant. So thank you guys. Let's go on to the next plant. So just keep it locked, go nowhere. I'll be talking about yams. We just finished talking about plantains, and you can see they're still in my face. They're literally everywhere in the farmhouse, right? So we'll be talking about yams next. And if you love yams, I'm sure that there is literally no one anywhere that doesn't love yams. Even if you do not love yams to be precise, you will love tubered crops like potatoes, like the Irish and the sweet potatoes, or just something that has a tuber form. Even if it's not yams, it could be cocoa yams, it could be water yams, just tubers. People love tubers because that's how you get your chips, right? And you love your chips with whatever you love them with. So we're talking about yams. So if you have never seen what yam looks like explicitly, what the yam plant looks like. I know you're not expecting them to be hanging, like the yam plants to be hanging out of this. Yams are cultivated differently, and their method of cultivation actually is a very, very intriguing one. very, very intriguing. And just like every other thing that I have in the farmhouse, you need land, right? You need land to be able to plant these things. You need good land. You need fertile land to be able to plant. Even if you're using fertilizer, you still need very fertile land, because that would help commensurate your efforts in planting whatever you are planting. So basically, for planting yam, you need to develop it. I'm yet to weed. You can see there is a lot of weed here. I'm yet to weed. I'll do that sometime within the week. But now the thing is, if you're planting yam, you don't need the leaves. You don't need the stems. What you need is the actual tuber of yam, right? So I know that might be a little funny, but this is how it works. So you get your tuber of yam, and then you cut it into sizable bits, right? So if you have yam, you could just cut like 5 inches into your yam. That's a circular section of that yam, and then you could cut that 5-inch slice into 4 pieces. Now, you're supposed to make ridges. There are different ways. Depends on how soft and permeable your soil is. If you have hard soil, you want to till and make a heap. This is what a heap looks like, guys. So this is what a heap looks like. So if you're making yam, you want to make one of these. This is what a heap looks like. Where I have this plantain tree, this is what a heap looks like. So it is like an elevated soil mass. You want to make this. If you don't have the strength, you could employ people to do it for you. But if you very well have the strength, you can make this. But like I said, it's dependent on how soft your soil is. Your soil needs to be very, very, very soft, right, for you to do this. So you create a heap. Once you create the heap, you've already made slices of your yam, right? So what you make a hole here. You make a hole here. You dig it out to create a hole. I didn't come with any of my farm utensils. You create a hole in the middle. Make sure that it's a good length, and in that hole you put in one of those pieces from the yam tuber that you cut. You put it right here, and then you cover it. So that's basically it, guys, for like cultivating, planting yam. Your tuber you cut, make your heap, make a hole in the middle, and then you put your cut tuber inside, and then you cover it. So I think the whole process is more like it decomposes, and then it starts sprouting. It starts sprouting from there. It starts sprouting. So when it starts sprouting, what you will see will be these tendrils, right? This is what the leaf looks like. You can see this is what the leaf looks like. The leaf of the yam. It has a love-shaped look, and then the tendrils are soft and they are very hard. They have this strength, very, very good strength. Like they are very strong. You can see this is what they look like. So once they start sprouting, you need to give them support, because if you don't, they're just like potatoes. I saw some potatoes. I'll show you guys what a potato looks like when we are heading out through the other way. They're like potatoes, but the thing is that you want them to grow with ease, right? Potatoes are climbers too, but potatoes grow on the ground, and as they are growing, they have stems that enter back into the ground and they form other tubers. But with yams, it's not like that. A yam will have just one central tuber in the place where you planted it, whereas a potato will have several tubers in different points, right? So now you need to give them a support. So most times you could use a stick, a bamboo. Most times we use bamboos in some areas, but I decided to use these ropes because I didn't have bamboos. So as I started sprouting, I got this rope, and then I connected. You can even use synthetic ropes. It doesn't have to be organic rope. If you can come close enough, you see that there is a blue rope right here. There's a blue rope here, and I just tied that all the way up to this very big African pear tree, which we will talk a little about. So I just tied that there, and then once you connect it from the roots when it's still coming out and you tie it, it will just follow that rope you tied and it's going to grow all the way up, right? So it's going to follow the rope and it's going to grow all the way up. It's going to grow all the way up, and that's literally it. That's basically it for the yam grows. But you have to make sure that around is well weeded. Don't pay mind to what this area looks like, because this doesn't have very big canopies like the plantain that will stop weeds from growing. So you have to make sure that you take a substantial amount of time and clear the weeds, because you want your yam tubers to grow very well. Now that's how it's grown, and it takes about, depending on the species of yam that you're cultivating, it takes about a year for it to fully mature. It takes about a year for it to mature. It could be 9 months, it could be 10 months, it could be 11, it could be 12 months. So anytime from 9 months up, your yam will be ready for you to cultivate. And how do you know that your yam is ready? If you notice, it will grow and it will bloom, and then the leaves will start shrinking over time. But you need to be sure that the shrinking is because it's mature, not because it's infested with any form of disease or the other. So that's about it for this. Now the plant itself, the benefits of yam. As we all know, yam is a carbohydrate stuffed tuber. Eating yam will give you a lot of burst of energy. It has high sugar content, so it's great for athletes. It's great for people that involve themselves in very rigorous activity. Yam is perfect. It has carbohydrates, sugars. It has trace amounts of proteins, very little amount of proteins, antioxidants, and the rest. Yams are wonderful. And here's another very phenomenal thing you should know. Remember I talked about plantains, and I was saying how people use plantains as swallow. You can use yam as swallow. You can eat yam fried. You can eat yam boiled with different kind of sauces, the egg sauce, vegetable sauce. You could eat yam pounded as a form of swallow, right? Everything about the yam tuber is needed, even the peels. In Western Nigeria, people use the peels of yam to make another form of swallow. So yeah, it's that diversifiable. You can use it to make different stuffs, and it is healthy, very healthy for you to ingest. So guys, that's it for yam. Wonderful, beautiful, climbing yam. So we'll be talking about another plant next, so keep it locked here in the farmhouse. And yes, of course, I forgot to mention, you could also sell this. There's a big market out there for yam. You get land as big as this, and you could say, oh, I want to focus on planting just yam. Although it takes a while, but you will definitely get the dividends of what you are doing. Yams from the north are exported to the south, from the south to the north. Literally everybody around Nigeria and other parts of Africa eats yam. So there is a big market for it, and you can make very good money from sending yams, exporting it, and also importing it as a yam seller. So guys, that's it for yam. We'll be talking about other plants that I have in the farmhouse. So guys, keep it locked as we go talking about the next. Okay guys, this is afang. As part of the farmhouse, I also grow afang. Afang is a native delicacy. It's eaten by almost all the tribes in Nigeria, the southern tribes, and even the eastern tribes. People in the east, the Igbos call it ukazi, as you can see, and they use it to make different forms of food. But here in the south, especially in Cross River, which is Cross River and Akwa Ibom State, which it is typically known for, afang leaves are called afang leaves. Basically, it's also called botanically Gentum africanum, and it is a very, very, very wonderful, wonderful plant. As you can see, it looks somewhat. It has the same structure as the yam climbing. It's a climber, and it has very, very strong stems. Like the stems are so strong, so strong. Guys, you guys have no idea. It can be cooked, right? The cultivation of this is it has a lot of technicalities in it, and it doesn't. It's people say it's hard to cultivate, but if you know how to cultivate, it's actually not that hard to cultivate. It looks like yam, but if you notice, it's not love shaped as yam. Some people eat it raw, like where I come from here in Cross River State, we eat this raw. We eat it with oil and pepper, raw, right? And we enjoy it so much. But we eat the ones that are very soft, very, very soft. So now this is used for making afang soup. Afang soup is like the most widely talked about soup. Put it that way. Once someone says afang soup, everybody's eyes widen. You can't be in Cross River or Akwa Ibom without having the very legendary afang soup. And this is the leaf that makes that possible. It's always greenish, oil, crayfish, meat fish, kanda, that's cow skin, and a couple of things inside, just making it like the ideal thing that you would want to eat, right? So it's very, 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 very nice. Now this leaf, for it to be prepared, it is plucked off the stems, and as it is plucked off the stems, it's washed. You have to make sure that you wash it. Once you plucked it, you have to pluck it off like this. You have to make sure that it all looks like this. So if someone is plugging it, they will just make sure they plug it all off. You have to make sure that it's like this. Then you have to make sure you wash it and dry it. You definitely do not want to cook it when it is not washed and properly dried, because when it's wet, it will be slippery, and the cutting process is a very stilt one. You have to slice it so thinly. You have to slice it so thinly, and then you can pound it, or you can use a hand engine to grate it, whatever your preference is, and then you cook it. It's actually cooked with water leaf. Water leaf we treated earlier in this video. We do this with water leaf. So you need to make sure that it's cut, sliced, and then it's pounded for your use, right? So it's great testing, really. It's great testing, and it's a very, very wonderful, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. Like you see this one looks, you can see that it's been harvested somewhat, but it's still growing, it's still sprouting from where it's been cut. So it has this continuous, like the ones you plant it and it grows, it has grown, right? So guys, very easy to cultivate, and it's great testing in Yafang soup. I have it all the way down. You just see what it looks like. It's really beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. And if you noticed, I used the iron, which is here, just to give that orientation to it, so I can tie different ropes all the way up. And if you notice, there is a sizable distance one from another. They are not all clustered together. They are not all clustered. You can still see the iron bars all the way around the afang leaves. So guys, this about, you could sell it. So the market out here is big, like I said. In other parts of Nigeria where this isn't exclusively cultivated, the demand is high. So people in Lagos, in Abuja, even in the north, people, Southerners that reside there, and even the Northerners that have come to eat and like this, always want it. So if you cultivate it, you can always sell it at a good rate and make your money as an afang vendor, right? House. This is okra, and we'll probably do something about this. So I want to do a little overview of everything that we have talked about, from the water leaf to the scent leaf to the plantains to the yams and to the afang. So talking about water leaf, I told you it takes about 2 weeks for it to mature. I told you you can cultivate it by planting the stems, and I also told you about the health benefits. I also talked about the economic importance of water leaf, how you can make good money from selling water leaf, cultivating every 2 weeks, taking it to the market, sending it to other places where they cannot easily cultivate it, and making a decent living off water leaf farming. It is very, very, very lucrative, I tell you. And then I talked about scent leaf, basically hinging on the health importance of scent leaf. And I also mentioned the things you could use scent leaf to cook. I mentioned the plantain, the pepper soup. I also mentioned it has a very rich umami taste. It's very, very good. I also mentioned the strict health benefits from the juice, how it can be used to reduce blood sugar, how it can be used to treat heart conditions, how it can be used as an insect repellent. So just having scent leaf around your house can help you repel different kinds of insects, from mosquitoes to flies and the rest. I also mentioned that it's good to help open your nasal cavity in case you're having a respiratory problem. Maybe you have blocked nostrils every now and then. A glass of scent leaf will go a long way in alleviating symptoms related to respiratory diseases or disorders for a while. I also talked about plantains, how they take about a year to mature. I showed you my baby plantains, which are like a month old. I showed you the very big ones, showed you what the plantain looks like. I also drew similarities and differences between the plantain and banana, because they look very much alike, so it's very easy for you to confuse them, but they are not the same thing. I also spoke about yams, how yams are somewhat easy to grow, and how you have to keep an eye out for weeds, from the water leaf to the scent leaf to the yams, weeds, and even your plantains. But I did mention that plantains have canopies, so when they bloom at the 5th or 6th month and they have those canopies, the weeds cannot survive underneath because you're not getting adequate sunshine for photosynthesis. So yes, I did mention all those things. I mentioned the ropes used to connect the climbing vines of yam, and how you can tie that and connect it. We spoke about afang, and I spoke about how afang can be prepared, how you can prepare afang, and how you can cultivate it. So guys, I hope you guys got maximum value from all these things that I shared, and I'll be doing subsequent videos in the coming weeks. And if you want to be kept abreast with everything I'll be doing, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Just click on subscribe button down below and turn on your notifications so you can get new videos when I do them. The next video I'll be talking about health, so keep it locked guys. Still here in the farmhouse, I'll be talking about health, so you really do not want to miss out on the health video guys. So thank you all for watching. I love you all, and I am also going to be here at every different point in time giving you valuable content guys, valuable content for your farms and for your health. Thank you guys, until next time, bye for now.